Well, time to keep my promise. Yu Yu Hakusho initially started out as a shonen manga series by Yoshihiro Togashi, who also created the Hunter x Hunter series and is actually married to Naoko Takuchi, the creator of Sailor Moon. It was serialized in Weekly Shonen Jump in 1990 and became one of the most popular manga series of its time. The anime adaptation wouldn't be produced until 2 years later in 1992, and it's a version most people are familiar with. Does it still hold up after all these years? Time to find out. The story follows a young boy named Yusuke Urameshi, who is deemed a delinquent by his teachers and classmates at his junior high school due to his constant brawls and bad habits. One fateful day, he loses his life after trying to save a boy from being hit by a car. His ghost was then greeted by a woman named Botan, who is a spirit that is in charge of ferrying souls of the deceased to the spirit world, where they would be judged. Yusuke was a special case, however, since his act of altruism caught the spirit world by surprise. So because there was not a place made for him in either heaven or hell, Koenma, son of the spirit world's ruler King Enma, offers him a second chance at life by giving him a series of tests that he ultimately passes with the help of his childhood friend Keiko and his school rival Kuwabara. When Yusuke returns to the living, Koenma grants him the title of Spirit Detective, charging him with investigating supernatural activity within the human world, thus beginning his series of adventures solving various cases and taking down evil demons while making new allies and rivals along the way. Being a fan of horror movies and action flicks, Yu Yu Hakusho immediately caught my eye. A show about a guy who dies but gets revived and starts going around and kicking demon ass? That sounds like my kind of jam. What I didn't expect was just how intriguing the series turned out to be, mainly because of the characters, but I'll get to that in a bit. The story of Yu Yu Hakusho is that of a coming-of-age story, much like a lot of anime in its genre, and is separated into 4 main arcs, and each arc tends to have major themes and life lessons going for it, like feeling remorse or coming face to face with your own mortality. I think the arcs do their jobs well, except for the final one. I think that one has a lot of problems. While they have typical shonen cliches here and there, I think it provides enough entertainment for me. I know most people say the Dark Tournament arc was by far the best arc the series has to offer, but I personally enjoyed Chapter Black the most, because not only does it have an outstanding villain, it also surprised me since it features heavy themes of morality, and it got pretty twisted and dark at times. Now, don't get me wrong, I ultimately liked the Dark Tournament arc as well. It features some of the best battles and moments in the entire series. But I think the major drawback to it was the pacing. In fact, I think the pacing could have been improved in general, because I felt it was just all over the place. Back in the Spirit Detective arc, I didn't feel there was much of an issue in the pacing. I know that sounds surprising, but that was honestly how I felt. Once the Dark Tournament arc settles in, it definitely started to slow down. Chapter Black didn't have much of an issue, though the final battle did drag on for quite a bit. And the Three Kings arc was by far the weakest and most disappointing arc in the series. It felt like it was really hyping up something awesome, but I guess they just ran out of time and they just went in a very weird direction with it. And at this point, the pacing was really bad. It was just so fast. Everything about it felt rushed, which is a shame because the potential was there. And don't get me started on the ending. As far as filler goes, Yu Yu Hakusho does have some filler on occasion. Most shonen anime in existence has filler in some shape or form, so it all depends on how much filler there is. At least it's nowhere near as headache-inducing as later shows like Naruto. Overall, I think the storytelling was alright, just as long as you pretend the Three Kings arc never happened. Moving on to the characters, they are my favorite aspect of the show. If it weren't for the characters being as colorful and interesting as they are, I probably would not have enjoyed this show that much at all. Yusuke was definitely a degenerate at the start of the series. He was hot-headed, a smartass, gets into fights, skips school, and is pretty perverted towards his love interest Keiko, who was pretty much the only person who sympathized with him at first. Though underneath his cold exterior lies a man with a kind and compassionate soul, a side of Yusuke that started to show itself much more as he fights his way throughout the series. I got to say, Yusuke is one of my favorite shonen protagonists. The struggles he deals with in his normal school life honestly reminds me of students I used to see when I was in school. Not to mention he is a kick-ass fighter and has a really cool ability. Screw the Kamehameha, this motherfucker fires a ki blast from the tip of his finger like a gun. Kuwabara is Yusuke's school rival with a strong desire to beat him in a fight. Initially, he wanted nothing more than to smash Yusuke's face to the ground. But when he gets involved in his spirit detective work and discovered powers of his own, he began to respect Yusuke a lot more as a rival and a friend. Much like Yusuke, Kuwabara has a temper and is not very bright, but he is a pretty nice guy once you get to know him, and unlike Yusuke, he has a strict code of honor and refuses to do things like punch girls. He also develops a huge crush on a character named Yukina later on, and with all the romantic babble he does around her, I wouldn't be surprised if he was somewhat of an inspiration to Brock's character in the Pokemon anime. As for his fighting skills, well, he gets his ass kicked. A lot. But goddamn is he the most resilient character in the series. Kurama is the most intelligent out of the boys, and most if not all of his abilities revolve around plants. He was once a demon fox that has lived over hundreds of years and has garnered infamy in the demon world as a bandit. When he was severely wounded, he used the last of his energy and merged his soul with that of a newborn human named Shuichi. He is mostly calm and calculating and rarely shows any emotion, yet at the same time, cares about his friends and family, especially his human mother. He mostly struggles with balancing his demon and human sides throughout the series, and while he is normally gentle, he will take drastic measures if need be. Aside from the flamboyant hairstyle, I think he's a solid character. Hiei is the most interesting out of the four. Initially, Togashi wanted him to be a one-time villain early on in the story, but because he became so popular with fans, he made him into a main character, and since then, he has become a fan favorite in the series. He is a huge contrast compared to the others. He doesn't value friendship, he's very cynical and arrogant, and there are very few people in his life that he holds in high regard. When he fights, he is downright ruthless, dare I say overpowered because of the shit he can do. Yet despite that, I like Hiei. The fact that he is such a loner makes him interesting, and once you see his tragic backstory, it makes much more sense why he has such a gloom view of the world. It's no wonder why many people like him the most. Genkai is the martial arts master who trains Yusuke early on in the show. She thought little of him at first, giving him labels such as dimwit or slacker, but over time she started to care more for him as if he was the son or grandson that she never had. What I liked about Genkai the most was that she was genuine. She was an actual master to Yusuke and takes her position seriously. Unlike certain masters, Roshi, Jiraiya, who are usually part of the dirty old man archetype. The supporting cast was alright. I never found characters like Botan or Koenma all that annoying, and they do help move the story along nicely. But I do question what they were going for one of them, Shizuru, Kuwabara's older sister. Now, it's common for a company producing an anime adaptation of a manga series to sometimes take some creative liberties. Shizuru's character is one of the examples found in Yu Hakusho. In the manga, she was merely a minor character, but in the anime, she's given more of a presence and actually takes over the role that Yusuke's mother had in the Chapter Black arc in the manga. Now, during the Dark Tournament arc, she encounters Sakyo, who was one of the main antagonists in that arc. And it seems that the writers were trying to put them in a weird romantic relationship, but nothing ever came out of it, and it ends as quickly as it begins. What were they trying to go for? There was no real chemistry between them. All it served was to fill up time, which was a shame. Speaking of antagonists, I really enjoy most of the enemies that Yusuke and the group face. They come with a wide array of personalities and gimmicky powers, and they get stronger and stronger as the show goes on. Some ultimately become friends with Yusuke like the drunken brawler Chu, while others become his bitter enemies like the badass muscle man Togoro and his grotesque elder brother. That's all I have to say. Overall, I was really into the characters more than anything else here. They made the story much more fun to go through. I love the themes that were presented here, the humor was spot on, and it got pretty intense at times. Definitely one of the better stories in the shonen genre. The only drawbacks are the pacing issue and the disappointment that was the Three Kings arc. Be wary though, it is a shonen anime, and like most shonen anime, it is very heavy on the martial arts. If that isn't your thing, Yu Hakusho isn't going to do much to change your mind. The visuals for this show was done by Studio Pierrot, who are well known for many of the modern anime productions like Naruto and Bleach. When compared to some of the other shows airing in 1992, I'll use Sailor Moon for example, Yu Yu Hakusho just generally looks much better. I think the character designers did a good job emulating Togashi's art style, especially for the demon characters. They look incredibly grotesque and intimidating. To be fair though, the animation could have been improved. Stock footage was utilized in some areas, and at times it does dip in quality, especially in episode 58. The battles are pretty entertaining and at times bloody with all of the over-the-top abilities that the characters have, and they rarely drag on. To my knowledge, there is only one fight that lasts for almost 10 episodes, and I will gladly take that over the terribly paced battles that plagues the Dragon Ball Z anime. Overall, I think the anime looks good. I really enjoyed the musical score in the series. It varies from being fast-paced and energetic to being somber and sad. The opening theme, Hohoemi no Bakudan by Matsuko Mawatari, is just a great song to get you pumped for the show. And I enjoyed all 4 ending themes, with my favorite being the second ending, Sayonara Bye Bye. These songs were actually all redone in English by Funimation for the dub of the show, and they all sound pretty good. So yeah, great music all around. The Japanese version I feel has an all-star cast. Let's go over some of the names involved, shall we? Nozomu Sasaki as Yusuke, Shigeru Chiba as Kuwabara, Megumi Ogata as Kurama, Nobuyuki Hiyama as freaking Hiei, Megumi Hayashibara, Norio Wakamoto, I could go on. This is an outstanding cast. The dub, on the other hand, is done by Funimation, and is mostly comprised of people who worked on the DBZ dub, but I think for the most part they are better here than they were in that dub. I honestly think Justin Cook plays a better Yusuke than Nozomu. The snarky attitude and flavor he brings makes the character so damn enjoyable. Chris Sabat proves once again that he's very passionate when it comes to voice acting when playing the role of Kuwabara, though his voice did tend to get on my nerves, I won't lie. John Bergmeyer I initially thought was a weird choice for Kurama since he seemed to be the one who plays more aggressive characters like Tien, but I gotta hand it to him, I thought he nailed Kurama's calm demeanor. Chuck Huber was good as Hiei, but I didn't think he was as good as Hiyama was. That's just me though. Linda Young actually fits Genkai. She sounds exactly how I expect an elder woman to sound, and is a vast improvement over her god-awful role as Frieza. Sadly, the dub is not perfect. Jessica Dismuke was the worst actress in the dub. Whenever she voiced Yukina, she just sounds so incredibly bored, like she didn't want any part of it. All in all though, I think you'll be able to appreciate the series in both languages. I think Yu Yu Hakusho is a solid shonen anime. I believe the characters really made the show worthwhile, and it offered visuals and action that is handled very well when compared to other anime at the time. Since its episode count is shorter than most other shows in its genre, I think you can get through it without feeling too worn out. It is still a long series, so I recommend watching it in small bursts. Yu Yu Hakusho was quite the game changer when it came out in Japan. It was one of the few shows that was able to rival Dragon Ball Z in terms of popularity, and many people still talk about the series today, both the manga and anime. While the anime doesn't completely replace the manga, as it does leave some stuff out and the final arc was terribly managed, I think it still serves as a great way to experience what shonen was like before shows like Naruto and One Piece came along. Definitely give it a shot. It's still a good series to sit through. Final score, 7.5 out of 10.